When you get up to walk through your own house in the dark, you're going to pause at the doorway of an empty room before you step inside. You won't decide to do it. Your body will just do it for you. A half-second freeze, a quick scan. Then you'll walk in like nothing happened. That pause has a name, a history, and a reason your brain refuses to let go of it. By the end of this video, you'll understand why hallways feel worse than rooms, why silence is scarier than noise, and why your brain treats an empty space like a puzzle it has to solve before it can relax. Because here's the strange part. The room isn't dangerous, there's nothing in it, and your brain still checks anyway. Every time. Start with the obvious question. Why would evolution build a brain that gets nervous about nothing? To understand why, you have to go back to the kind of environment your ancestors evolved in, likely millions of years ago, on open grasslands where they were not the strongest animal around. Not even close. They were mid-sized, slow, and edible. For a creature like that, an empty space wasn't neutral. It was unresolved information. A quiet clearing could be truly empty, or it could be a predator crouched low in grass the exact color of its fur. The two scenarios looked identical from 30 feet away. Cognitive scientist Justin Barrett proposed a theory to explain a problem like this. He called it the Hyperactive Agency Detection Device. It describes how your mind may be biased to detect agency, some other creature or person, in situations that are genuinely ambiguous. The bias asks one question before anything else. Is something else in here with me? Not might there be danger. Is something watching? If you've ever felt a flicker of unease standing in a dark, empty room, you've probably felt the kind of bias Barrett was trying to explain. Here's what's fascinating. The device isn't tuned for accuracy. It's tuned for speed. A brain that wastes energy checking an empty clearing 100 times and finds nothing loses almost nothing. A brain that fails to check the one time something really is there doesn't get a second chance. Evolution doesn't reward brains that are usually right. It rewards brains that are never fatally wrong. So your ancestors who felt nothing when they should have checked simply didn't pass on their genes. You come from the ones who always checked. And here's the part nobody talks about. This system doesn't just watch for movement, it hunts for faces, specifically faces in places where faces shouldn't be. Kang Lee, a researcher at the University of Toronto, ran a 2014 study asking people to find faces hidden in random visual noise. Images that were pure static with nothing recognizable in them at all. People still saw faces. Confidently. Repeatedly. Their brains built eyes and a mouth out of nothing because a false positive costs almost nothing, and a missed face, a real one, hidden and watching, could cost everything. This is why the corner of a dark closet looks like it's staring at you. This is why a coat on a hook becomes a shape at 2 a.m. for exactly one heartbeat before you recognize what it actually is. Your brain would rather see 100 imaginary threats than miss one real one, even now. But an empty room has no shadows shaped like coats sometimes. No corners, no ambiguity at all. Just bare walls and silence. So why does that feel worse, not better? This is the part most people never hear. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux at New York University spent decades studying the amygdala, the almond-shaped cluster of neurons behind your fear response. His research showed the amygdala can respond to potential threats before your conscious mind finishes evaluating them, which means it can react to ambiguity itself before there's any actual threat to confirm or rule out. An empty room doesn't give your ancient detection system a clean answer. It gives it silence. And silence isn't safety to a brain built by millions of years of near misses. Silence is simply data withheld. Your amygdala doesn't experience nothing as fine. It experiences nothing as pending. Say that again in your head. Pending. That's why a completely empty house feels more unsettling than one with a radio playing somewhere in it. Noise resolves the question. It tells your ancient detector exactly where the moving thing is and that it's just a radio. Silence refuses to answer at all. It leaves the file open. Your ancestors survived by treating unresolved space as more dangerous than resolved space, even when resolved space had an actual, visible predator in it. At least a visible predator is a fact you can act on. Unresolved silence is a threat that could be anywhere, which your ancient wiring reads as a threat that is everywhere. Think about the last time you stood in a room that had just been emptied out. A childhood home after the moving truck left. A classroom after the last day of school. An office on the night before it closes for good. The furniture is gone. The danger, if there ever was any, is definitely gone. And yet those rooms feel heavier than a room that was never touched at all. Here's the part that should feel impossible. Many people report that a space feels different once the people or objects tied to it are gone. A stage with no actor, a chair with no one in it. One explanation is that your brain is constantly predicting what it expects to see next and quietly registering it when reality doesn't match that prediction. That might be why a house feels different the day after someone moves out than it did the day before. Nothing physically changed except which objects sit inside four walls. But the gap where the couch used to be, the pale rectangle on the wall where a picture hung for a decade, breaks a prediction your brain had been running for years without you ever noticing it, even now. Your brain is still asking a version of the same question it may have asked on the savannah. Is something missing here that should be present? Here's the twist that makes this personal. You've felt this exact sensation somewhere that had nothing to do with actual danger. Standing in an office building alone after hours, walking down a hotel corridor at midnight, sitting in a childhood bedroom that's been empty since you moved out. None of those spaces have ever hurt you, and every one of them made the hair on your arm stand up anyway. That's not you being irrational. That's millions of years of ancestors who checked the empty clearing, still checking it, using your body as the instrument. You were never scared of the room. You were scared of not knowing. And once you know that, something shifts. The unease stops feeling like a flaw and starts feeling like inheritance. Every person who ever paused at a doorway, every person who ever turned on a light before entering a dark room, every person who has ever felt watched by absolutely nothing was running the exact same ancient program you just ran tonight. Modern life almost never lets this system rest. You built glass towers, empty parking garages, and hallways lit by a single flickering bulb. Spaces engineered by accident to maximize exactly the kind of ambiguity your amygdala was built to fear. Horror films didn't invent the empty hallway. They just found the oldest fear humans have and pointed a camera at it. The next time you pause at a dark doorway, you're going to notice it. And once you notice it, you won't be able to unnotice it again. Tonight, you'll pause at that doorway again. Not because the room is dangerous, because uncertainty always deserved one last look. You're not walking into an empty room. You're closing a file your brain has kept open for millions of years.